In the very first scene of Gigli, Ben Affleck says, "The only thing you can count on in this life is that you never effing know." Most of the time when people say a movie is the best or the worst, it's totally subjective. There are so many great movies and so many bad ones that it's almost impossible to definitively call one the best or the worst, except when it comes to Gigli. Yes, Gigli, the 2003 Ben Affleck-Jennifer Lopez vehicle that tanked at the box office, forced the director to retire, and both set up and broke up the couple known as Bennifer. I watched Gigli a few years after it came out because I wanted to know if it was really as bad as everybody said, and then I watched it again recently with a group of friends after Bennifer got back together because I wanted to know if it was as bad as I remembered. And it was. But something kind of funny happened when I watched it a third time for this video. I still think it's terrible, but I also watched so many stinkers this year that even though I think Gigli is unredeemably bad, I don't know if it's the all-time worst anymore. We've made some bad movies since 2003. I'll tell you what happens, and you can decide for yourself. We'll dive into the plot, the controversy surrounding the movie, and why it's considered such an epic flop. Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez met on the set of Gigli. When they came out as a celebrity couple, the studio ordered reshoots to play up their couple status. Allegedly, the crime drama that was the original Gigli was cut into a romantic comedy. The total project cost $75 million and made only 1/10 of that back at the box office. In the United States, the film was pulled from theaters after only 3 weeks. Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez postponed their engagement 1 month later. Damn. So this movie failed so hard as an investment, but does it fail so hard as a movie? Before we begin, there are some lines in this movie that I really did not want to say, so I had the robot say them. Ben Affleck plays a beta male named Larry Gigli, who fancies himself
Sultan of Slick and this vicious effing mad dog.
He's a mob goon living in Los Angeles, and his boss orders him to kidnap the younger brother of a district attorney to get the next level up boss from going to prison. The little brother's name is Brian. Brian lives in an assisted living facility, and Larry Gigli kidnaps him from this facility and basically imprisons him in his crappy Hollywood apartment, where he keeps him in line by promising to take him to the Baywatch, which is what Brian calls the set of his favorite show. We'll get to Brian later, but suffice to say that this is not a sensitive portrayal of people with disabilities at all. Then Jennifer Lopez, aka Ricky, shows up at Larry's front door, pretending to be some beautiful stranger. But she's really an additional employee hired to keep an eye on Larry because everyone thinks Larry is an idiot. But like Brian, Ricky's character has a big twist. Ricky is a lesbian. Also, she's on some sort of vision quest, and she is always doing yoga and reading books about Eastern philosophy. And the whole movie, the only thing she eats or drinks is a cup of peppermint tea, which is kind of sad. But anyway, she tells Larry, and I quote, "This might be a good time to suggest you not allow the seeds of cruel hope to sprout in your soul." Because she's a lesbian and she doesn't want to get with Larry. But because this is a movie written by a man, Larry bullies the shit out of Ricky until she finally convinces herself that, really deep down, Larry is a lesbian too. So it's okay if they hook up. It's not cheating because he is a spiritual lesbian. She propositions him with this very sexy phrase.
"Gobble gobble. Lay some of that sweet hetero-lingus on me."
I know this movie's price ballooned because of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, but honestly, I don't think they were paid enough to say some of this dialogue. Anyway, Larry's dumb boss orders them to cut off one of Brian's fingers, and then Ricky's ex-girlfriend shows up and attempts suicide in Larry's crappy kitchen, and Larry and Ricky decide they obviously can't cut off one of Brian's fingers, so they cut off a dead guy's thumb when they take the crazy ex-girlfriend to the hospital. Then Al Pacino waltzes in. He is the top honcho, the big boss, the reason for the kidnapping. He goes crazy, and for about 15 minutes, we're in a completely different movie We are now in a scary movie. We're in a real R-rated mafia movie with crazy Al Pacino. He shoots Larry's boss right in the head and then monologues at the dead guy about why the plot of this movie is so stupid. Ricky, who to her credit is really good at de-escalation tactics, convinces Al Pacino that they should take Brian home and forget about the whole extortion deal. On the way back, they drive by the set of Baywatch, and Brian gets out and sees so many boobs. Ricky decides she wants to be with Larry after all because of his big gay soul. Larry decides he doesn't want to hurt people anymore, and everyone lives happily ever after. The end. So here's what this movie did not totally bungle. The whole character arc of Larry Gigli revolves around him grappling with his masculinity. He's not a mafia thug, and Ricky thinks deep down inside he's probably a woman. A tough guy coming to grips with his emotions is a nice arc, and I actually liked what this movie tried to do with gender. But the way the movie goes about doing this is so juvenile. For example, Larry gives Ricky an extended lecture about how in every relationship there's a bull and a cow, and he is the bull and Ricky is the cow because she's the woman. There are plentiful references to barnyard animals, always a useful metaphor for discussing human sexuality. Ricky does that middle school thing where she gets Larry to look at his fingernails, and then he looks at them like a woman would look at them, and she's like, you seem more balanced towards the feminine. So then, because Larry's so feminine, she offers to hook up with him, and he's like, nah, you need a woman. And she's like, I got one, bitch. Because it's him. He's the woman. And then at the end, when she gives up her entire sexual identity to be with this hamhead, she's like, you know, Larry, your eyes are like really pretty. You should wear mascara. Did your mom ever put mascara on you? So yeah, the whole Ben Affleck as a lesbian thing, it kind of works. This is not a reason why I dislike the movie, but this is a reason I think some disliked the movie. Yeah, Jennifer Lopez is super hot in this movie. Okay, moving on. That's it, actually. That's really all that works about this movie. Here's what does not work. The running joke of the film is how no one can pronounce Gigli. People want to say jiggly or giggly, but Ben Affleck smooths out the second G and pronounces it Gigli, rhymes with really.
Larry Gigli, right? I saw it on the mailbox.
Yeah, it's pronounced Gigli, like, rhymes with really.
My name is pronounced Gigli, it rhymes with really.
How were people supposed to walk up to the box office and be like, I want 2 tickets to Gigli? Is the ticket taker supposed to correct them? A word to the wise, if no one can pronounce the title of your movie, rename your movie. For me, the most unforgivably bad aspect of Gigli is the character Brian. Brian's condition really just seems like an excuse for Ben Affleck to say
retarded
a lot. Kind of how Ricky being lesbian seems like a reason for the writer to show off that he invented the term
Dicosaurus Rex.
Yeah, real cool. Brian is never formally diagnosed. The script just calls Brian
a beloved individual with certain psychological defects, dopey.
The character of Brian is also uncomfortably lewd and foul-mouthed, and it's played for laughs. Larry doesn't even really believe Brian has a disability. He thinks Brian is just messing with him. I feel like this character is just cruel. It's a cruel way to depict someone with severe autism or Tourette's or whatever other more degrading term the script is using. It was a bad choice. They did it poorly, and it's 100% a reason to avoid this film for the rest of time. The director, Martin Brest, maintains that Gigli ate it so hard because of the reshoots, rewrites, and re-edits. I really don't think holding an adult with disabilities hostage was going to go well with any audience in any kind of movie. Nice try, Martin Brest. The writer and director of Gigli is Martin Brest. So who is this Martin Brest guy? Actually, prior to Gigli, he had a pretty solid track record. He directed Al Pacino in his Oscar-winning performance in The Scent of a Woman, and the movie he made immediately prior to Gigli was Meet Joe Black, a huge box office success that put Brad Pitt at the top of his game. Martin Brest's experience making Gigli was so bad that Brest actually retired from filmmaking following its release. In 2003, he reluctantly spoke about the impact Gigli had on his life. Extensive disagreements between the studio and myself got to the point where post-production was shut down for 8 months while we battled it out. In the end, I was left with 2 choices: quit or be complicit in the mangling of the movie. To my eternal regret, I didn't quit, so I bear responsibility for a ghastly cadaver of a movie. Once key scenes were cut, it became like a joke with its punchline removed. Extensive reshooting and re-editing turned characters, scenes, story, and tone upside down in the futile attempt to make the increasing mess resemble a movie. But I have to wonder, what is the punchline that was allegedly removed? In what universe did a mafia movie about a fake lesbian, a horny teenager, and a bonehead with a goofy last name actually work? I actually don't think there's any version of this movie that works. This movie is so bad that not only did it force the director to retire, it also broke up one of America's most beloved couples. Bennifer went down with this ship, literally. Gigli came out in August 2003. Bennifer postponed their wedding in September 2003, and Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez formally ended their engagement in January 2004. Jennifer Lopez's statement said, "Due to the excessive media attention surrounding our wedding, we have decided to postpone the date." Now, I think this is pretty sad, but I also think it really shows how out of hand digital media and celebrity culture had gotten by 2003. The studio thought they had a sure thing, marketing a rom-com starring the hottest couple in the world right before they got married and lived happily ever after, just like they do in the movie. But the studio's fatal mistake was staring them right in the face the whole time. As Larry Gigli himself says, the only thing you can count on in this life is that you never effing know. Not even Jennifer Lopez's juicy booty or Ben Affleck's chiseled cheeks could save Gigli from box office disaster in 2003. Gigli is a bad movie, and it may have tanked at any point in history, but the timing did not help. This movie came out in 2003 and competed against some of the best movies of the decade. Gigli came out in 2003. What else came out in 2003? How about Pirates of the Caribbean? How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days? Freaky Friday? The Lord of the Rings? The Return of the King? If you could see some of the greatest movies of all time at the cinema that year, why would you see the worst? In a bad movie year, Gigli might have stood a fighting chance, but not in 2003. Oh, and this came out the same year as the Lizzie McGuire movie? Forget it, it's over. No one is going to see Gigli. In conclusion, even without the studio overhaul, Gigli doesn't work. At least if you think it's a rom-com, you're prepared to laugh at it, which can be fun. And laugh you might, because Gigli is plain ridiculous. But is it one of the worst movies ever made? Honestly, 20 years later, yeah, it's still pretty bad. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. It really helps support me and the channel and helps encourage me to make more great content. This year, it's my goal to put out a new video every other week on Wednesdays. Take care, everybody. Cheers.